Testing.
Testing.
In the rain. That's what we were saying. We both like rain.
Well, can you tell him? He's like, well, what's it going to do? Hurt my ears? Will they hurt yours?
What are you doing in the morning? You gotta come out there and rant for 2 seconds. And I can help you. One, you know, whatever.
You're staying down here.
We gotta go up there and visit with.
Or just,
Yeah, but like if you get breakfast and come up there maybe 10 or 10:30, take it easy, and then we could meet you at our place. It could take 30 minutes to run around and see that. I think you'd like it, you know. And then we can sit down with the table, computer, prayers, stuff, set up, do anything. We could.
You mean hang on the wall?
Oh.
My uncles and grandparents, they have property over in Alabama.
well, I love it. I bet some of the wives don't, and so all the turkey things end up coming. It is
Testing.
We have ours. I keep ours, but it doesn't go for that.
Testing.
He shot it. Kind of like the fourth biggest one. It'll be there. You'll see it. Oh, the one there got much bigger.
That just killed me. I saw that. What? That was really nice. I'm carrying the picture around.
My husband runs.
Well,
I mean, this is
You're further involved than us.
and I've gotten down to big game fishing, but I've gotten to fly fishing. I really like fly because it's
done that yet.
easier.
It's like I've been buying all those more.
You really don't have to. You really don't have to.
I do so much the environmental stuff with fishing, and we started Guy Harvey t-shirts in my close, but in a tackle shop. So in our partners. I did all of this stuff, insurance, all this stuff. I'm out of that and just do work on resorts now. But yeah, with the International Game Fish Association and Bill Shedid and AFCO, I stay super involved with trying to bridge with the hunting association, which is sort of more hand of the fishermen in terms of not having federal crazy overcrowd and, you know what I mean, good science, and it's been a real.
Is that let's get started then? All right,
we'll get started.
Testing 1, 2. Good evening. I'm not sure if everybody can hear me all right or not. We're having some sound difficulties. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Matt Carpenter with the Walton County Planning Department. I'm the planning manager. This is our first public workshop as we get started with the process to update our comprehensive plan. And another component of that will be updating the land development code. With me tonight is Kristen Schell. She's our environmental planner. She's also the county's project manager for our comp plan land development code update. And we have our consultant for this process, project manager Celeste Werner.
Good evening.
I'm going to turn it over to her and let her have her show. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Celeste Werner, as Max so kindly introduced me. So, and Kristen is, I don't know if they can see you behind here, but she is the heavy lifter for the county behind the scenes and an integral partner of ours as we move forward. What I like to do is take this opportunity to introduce the rest of my team. Even though I'm the project manager, I'm solely not, I'd love to say I am, but solely not the brains behind the entire thing and bringing all the best practices and expertise to your effort here. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Pat Small. Pat Small is also with Matrix Design Group. He is our deputy project manager. He has extensive amount of experience in the state of Florida and throughout the United States as well, but has a good portion of his experiences living here in the state and doing planning. He is a certified planner, as am I. And I am I'm nationally known across the U.S. doing comprehensive plans, zoning ordinances, land development codes across urban to rural. So I look forward to sharing some of my best practices, lessons learned, and what has and what has not worked, so you have the opportunity to look at everything and do the choices and consequences. So our role is to provide to you and give you the choice and the consequences. And there's a choice and a consequence with everything, right? So it's coming together and really focusing in on what is a great balance. A balance for everybody's purpose, mission, agenda, working and living together as one. So we'll go into that in a little bit. I also like to introduce Mr. Mike Rapla. Mike Rapla is an engineer and a planner with Matrix Design Group. He is out of our DC office, but also is what we would call one of our national expertise, who's had the opportunity to work across the U.S. He's also a retired colonel, Air Force. He was stationed here. His last duty was out at Hurlburt as Special... Thank you. Command Engineer Special Ops. So he brings, he's had the opportunity to live here for a number of years, not necessarily here in Walton County, but within Niceville. But he has traversed this area quite a lot and understands it as well. And also with us tonight is Tanya and Nation. And Tanya is our traffic engineer. Tanya, and I'm sure many of you know who Tanya is. If you haven't, she is well-versed in Walton County, very passionate, and really takes everything, all her projects dear to her heart, and looks out for the best interest of all of you as us. The person who is not here tonight, you'll see his name up there, is Sal Nujumian. Sal Nujumian is Matrix Design Group's project director. So he's overseeing the entire program or project and integrating our team with the county staff, and as well the elected appointed officials, in making sure that we reach out to the community, all of you, all of your neighbors, your family, friends, and the other residents and business owners within the area. He unfortunately had a conflict tonight, but he's going to be with us the next 2 nights for the upcoming workshops. at that point. So we thought, well, who are these potential people that are standing in front of you who's working on a very, very important effort to update both the comprehensive plan and the land development code for the county, for Walton County. So we thought you would be interested in just a one slide, quick overview of who is Matrix Design Group. We are a multidisciplinary consulting firm. We focus in on planning, engineering, environmental, and transportation. So we look at all of those different services. We have engineers across the board, so we have those experts that we could reach out to. Our bench is very, very broad. We have 11 offices across the United States and one internationally. And we have an office here locally, Niceville. Of course, Sal is out of that office, and we have a number of other technical experts who are here in our Niceville office as well. But stepping back a little bit about the bigger umbrella of Matrix and our local office, we bring to this project a widespread of experience. You heard me talk about that a little bit earlier. But not only do we have extensive experience in Walton County, and when I say we, I'm not talking about the firm. I'm truly talking about the team. Myself and Mike and Pat, as well as Tanya and the rest of our others, have been doing numerous projects within this region, the Tri-County area, since the late 90s, the early 2000s, and on. And recently, you may have seen us. We were instrumental in doing the growth management plan when the special forces were coming and bedding down here in the region out at Eglin Air Force Base and the reservation. We did the implementation of the joint land use study for Walton County, Defuniak, Freeport, as well as Santa Rosa and the incorporated counties in Santa Rosa and Okaloosa County. The list goes on. Those are some of the key planning ones that a number of us have been involved in. I know that Tanya has a number of projects as well. But not just this region. We also bring a wealth of experience in Florida and nationally. So we marry all of that together, and we bring that to you. We look forward to assisting you and the county in updating your comp plan and the land development code. So as we move forward, what are we going to do tonight? Well, one, we're going to do our very best to respect all of your time. We want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We know that you all have very busy schedules. One, two, the weather is not on our side. It's one of those, let's stay in, get a blanket, nice warm hot cocoa, and I'm sure all of our residents and friends who are watching us live, we welcome you as well. But tonight we want to give you a very high-level overview of what our scope, what our task is to do for both the comp plan and land development code, as well as when the schedule is, at least for the comp plan. Tonight we're focusing on the first phase. So there's two phases of our contract, The first one is to update the comprehensive plan, and the second one is to update the land development code. I'm going to go through what that word update means in a few minutes here. So tonight, the reason why we're only focusing on the comprehensive plan is because legally and by law, by state statutes, the land development code is to implement the comprehensive plan. So to go forward and update the land development code without having a very solid comprehensive plan that all of you support, that has been adopted by the commissioners, the county commissioners, would not be the right process or a legal process to follow. So hopefully that explains why we're just focusing in tonight on the comprehensive plan. Then we thought it would be take a good opportunity to just give you some overview of what is a comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan, and Pat will go into a little bit more detail of this, is a policy document. It's not a regulatory document. So we'll wait for some of those slides to go into that. And then the most important part is to get input from you. So the one thing that we do is we want to make sure that we bring forward and we new information to all of you, to keep you informed, to keep a transparency of what we're doing, to keep you involved. And during these meetings, we try to do our very best to provide two means of communication. One is a passive communication for those who may not feel comfortable to get up here and speak. And so we have the comment cards. They're available up here. Raise your hand if you want one. And you could write your comments on the comment cards and submit them and not speak if you're not comfortable with that, which is fine. And then if you are comfortable with speaking, we're going to go through this a little later, but the rules of engagement are please use the comment cards and put your name on the comment card, and we'll call you up and we'll go through that. And when we get to the public involvement section, we'll get into a little bit more detail on that. So, any questions? Perfect. So we'll keep moving forward here. So the scope of the work, you heard me talk about that there's two phases. We're focusing in on phase one. Update. That word update is very broad. But what we're focusing in on and what the county's effort here is actually, it's amazing. You guys are very lucky. This is an effort that is well needed, and it's an opportunity to help all of you, all the residents, the property owners, and to really have to define the comprehensive plan and make sure we eliminate all of the inconsistencies and the contradictions. So there's areas that contradict each other. One area may say residential is permitted, and then in another section or chapter of the comprehensive plan, it may say residential is not supported within that area. So that's what we're doing. Our scope is to go through and identify the inconsistencies and the areas that are contradictions, as well as making sure it flows, making sure that it's user-friendly, that it's readable, it's easy to use. We're going to incorporate not only by improving the format and to find things easy, to identify areas that are specific to South Walton or North Walton, but also to incorporate illustrative graphics. Graphics are worth, a numerous number of words, and people could really understand a picture. So where appropriate, we're going to use our urban designers, our graphic designers, and we're going to design and illustrate those, or develop those illustrations and locate them in areas to assist all of you in making a more user-friendly type of document. When I talk about looking at inconsistencies, the one thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to be looking across the board in 3 different areas. We need to make sure that we review the comprehensive plan and that there's no inconsistencies internal to the plan, very similar to what I just talked about with residential being allowed or not allowed in certain areas. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to be evaluating the comprehensive plan against the 1994 1994 trust plan. And the 1994 trust plan basically laid out the vision for the county. It talked about placemaking and gave a full range of principles for placemaking, conservation element, and guidance on the overall development pattern within the area. And being respectful of the environment, but providing smart growth within those areas. So by law, we are required to make sure that the comprehensive plan is in compliance and supports that trust plan. Pat's going to go through in detail about what is in that trust plan. These documents that I'm talking about are available on the project website, which I'll talk about here in briefly. And then the last thing our role and responsibility is to do is to make sure that your comprehensive plan is in compliance with the state statutes, with Florida's state statutes. So, and there's a number of areas and criteria and mandates that we need to meet and we will go through that and highlight those areas. What are we not going to do? So what I just talked to you about is actually a very huge undertaking. It is very labor intensive to go back and forth and make sure that the language is detailed, that there's no ambiguity, the best that we can make that, to make sure there's compliance, that each of the documents are respected at their same levels. But what we are not doing, we are not revising the comprehensive plan in whole. We are not changing the future land use map that currently is in the comprehensive plan. And the big takeaway is we are not changing the substantive content of it. This is truly an update that we would call a technical update to assist all of you in making it very clear and detailed on and defining what is in the comp plan. So then as we move forward, when we're completed, I said earlier, we'll then move into phase 2, which is updating the land development code. And I'm going to wait. We're going to have another set of public workshops for that when we get to that phase of the project. So we are not doing this alone, and although we are the Consultants Matrix Design Group, this is not our plan, and it is your plan. So with us, and part of our team is the county, and at this point, the county also has a component and a role in updating on the technical side of the house, the comprehensive plan as well. And those areas include...
Good evening. The county's portion is kind of what is not in Matrix's scope, and it's a big portion. We're going to be updating all the supporting documentation for the plan. That hasn't been done since 1996, and when we did the EAR that ultimately got the evaluation and appraisal report that ultimately got implemented in 2011. So it's been a while, and we've already started doing that. If you look at the project website, there's a lot of some beginning supporting documentation there. You'll see an updated existing land use map, which is on the wall here. We've broken the county down into the south part of the county down into 4 planning areas, just for ease of us communicating with you, and I would encourage you, if you live in one of those 4 areas, as we move through the public involvement process, that you work with us in that area and provide constructive input in that area that's relevant to you specifically, that you have intimate knowledge of, that you live in and that you care about. And you can find out which one you're in. They're broken by park area, so it's really easy and convenient, I think. So part of that supporting documentation is going to be getting that to be consistent with the state statute requirements. We're required to have lots of information, environmental information, water quality information, existing land use information, redevelopment information, housing information. We have to have all of that stuff, and so we're going to do all that. We're going to do all that work in-house, mainly me. Yeah, I'm scared now. But we're going to do it, and I'm excited about it. I've been doing urban planning for 17 years in Florida. It's my life. I'm a planning enthusiast, so it'll be fun, and I think it'll be fun for you too. And I encourage you to look at that information, even though it gets a little boring sometimes. On the website now, you can find out just how much of South Walton is actually vacant. Who has a theory? Anybody want to throw a number at me?
60, 87.
87% vacant?
You talking about state land?
No, not including state land. Vacant and developable. I'm taking bets. No. Little high. We're getting close. It's probably around 12%, but that includes infill lots. So, like if you have a residential subdivision, that'll be your, lots in there that don't have a house on them. But they're already in what we call entitled development. So that's a subdivision, it's a plat, and that's what it's going to be, unless somebody comes in and changes that plat. So it's probably realistically around 8 or 9. So, yeah, so we're finding out fun things like that, doing the supporting documentation. And you can go online and you can pick that apart, and I encourage you to do that. And if you see anything wrong, let me know. I want to get it right. So you go look in your area and you see something on that map that doesn't look right, let me know, because I want to get it right and we want to fix it, okay? So you can see all of that.
You talking about land that has not been developed, it's raw and vacant at this particular point in time and not state forest?
Yes. Yes, raw, and I actually broke it down by future land use map category. So you can look online by planning area and you can see if I'm in planning area 1, what % in each future land use map category is vacant. It's good information. And go look at it, look at those maps, and let me know. If I got it wrong, I want to know. Anyway, back to what we're supposed to be talking about. Community level issues are on the county's radar screen. We know we've been going through the development process, and I've been here for about a year, and I've been to a lot of the meetings. Some of them been fun, and I'm sure fun for you too, but stressful for you and stressful for us. County staff is under a tremendous amount of pressure. We have a code and a comp plan that makes it hard for us to do our daily job. It says one thing in one place, says something else in another place. It makes it hard. It's subject to interpretation. That's hard for you. That is also hard for us. We got some great people working in that office, and I know many of you don't believe that, but we do. And they ring in their heads, wanting to do what's right, but it's hard with what we have. So,
Can I ask you a question? What is the policy of the land departments? Because I've been here since the comp plan got adopted. About 90% of land use changes are recommended. So it seems like the land use policy that's just the point to change from. It doesn't seem to me.
are you speaking about comprehensive plan, future land use map amendments?
When it was adopted, the problem is this isn't accurate depiction. My question is, how do they know what to fix when they brief this if they don't know from all the people that went, hey,
We are, as part of this project, there's no proposal to change any land use designations. That's not part of the scope of this project at all.
how can you evaluate the comp plan if you don't admit that you haven't thought? I've been to 300 of these meetings for, like I said, since 1996.
Your name's Alan, right?
Yeah,
Alan?
I just don't, if you got a future land use map, that land use change has never happened yet it's already on the map. Driftwood is still able to golf course by your own ordinance.
That's an existing land use map.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one that's based on the property appraiser's data. So it's by DOR code, and that's the one I'm talking about. If you see something on there that it doesn't look right, then we'll get that fixed. That's existing land use. That's not future land use. But Alan, I'm going to appeal to you directly to give us a chance.
I just don't see how y'all can go through this process without public input.
She's going to talk about public input. We're going to have plenty of opportunity for public input. That's what we're doing here tonight. That's why we're here tonight. And I'm asking you to give us a chance and to participate in a constructive way. I think that this is a good thing. Just give us a chance. I know you don't know me or this team, but give us a chance. But let me go back to what we have for community level issues that's kind of on our radar screen as we move forward. We know we have some compatibility issues. Obviously, the snappy turtle. We know that those things are out there where we have land use categories that say, is it snappy turtle? Is that wrong?
That's what everybody calls it.
Okay. I mean that in a nice way. So we know that we have numerous mixed use categories, and they have vague statements like must be compatible with the neighborhood. Well, what does that mean? and what do you specifically need to do with your project to be compatible with the neighborhood? So we know that we've got all of these great mixed-use land use categories, but they're a little open-ended in terms of well, what do you actually need to do? And I'm used to working with codes that will spell that out a little bit, but there are criteria for compatibility. Now, that's not to say that if those criteria are met, you or I might still not agree that it's compatible, but at least we all know what this has to do to meet the definition of compatibility in our code. So we know that we have those issues out there. The trust plan has some placemaking principles that talks a lot about greenways and open space. We have a greenways policy in our plan now. So how can we kind of tie our areas together down here and in a way that creates and enhances the unique places that we have? That's in our comp plan today and in that trust plan. So we hope we can revisit those things. And again, the last thing is, I think everybody at the county, at least, we get that South Walton is unique and special. And we want it to be that way. Nobody has any, or given any direction or any motives to not do that. We want to make sure that the plan continues to implement the trust plan, the vision for South Walton, and that it continues to promote that high level quality of place and character. You know, we're the planning textbook of new urbanist communities. I mean, we have a beautiful string of new urbanist communities, and that's an asset.
What is meant by the term place-making principles?
Placemaking is kind of a planning term to capture what I hear from everybody is it's how you define those unique places and preserve those unique places within your comprehensive plan and regulatory documents. It deals a lot with the public realm, public space. I'll give you a good example of Seaside, the plaza at Seaside. That is a perfect example of placemaking. And we have numerous venues like that. We have a great greenway system that we've started to piece together. We have greenways and trails in different developments. So how do we sort of tie those together, and how do we go back to that original trust plan vision and the comp plan policy that deals with greenways? We have a policy. How do we make it work better? How do we use those assets that we currently have in the plan to work better at making and keeping this unique place? Does that make sense?
So defining the character is another way of looking at it. So what's the character of that area, like character areas?
You're talking
Defining
about areas that have already been developed.
that may still have undeveloped land as well, or areas that may have been developed that you want to preserve that character, and areas that still have the opportunity for growth and development, and maybe there's another opportunity to find a new character and a new identity, but yet using the greenways and other means of
Neighborhood plans.
connectivity and doing our best to make sure that happens. Did that answer a little bit more of, it's through design guidelines, it's through the way, the siting, siting of structures, the siting, there's a lot of different architecture to determine and identify placemaking. So hopefully that helped. Do you want vertical mixed use? Do you want, to your 50B, do you want horizontal mixed use in some areas? So that would be defining placemaking in that public space that Kristen was talking about earlier.
Yeah, neighborhood plan. We have neighborhood plans in our comp plan. That's another venue to create unique spaces or maintain unique spaces that we can work on some. So we know that we just wanted to let you know that we know these issues are out there. We're not ignoring your concerns, and there's no desire to do that. Okay.
I'm going to even touch, I know Ellen may have know him, but I think that was his name. I want to talk about the existing land use map, and you said the data came from the assessor's database, correct?
Yes, every county has what's called a DOR, Department of Revenue coding. So that's how we derive our existing land use map. And sometimes it's not perfect. Like you'll have a conservation area set aside in a subdivision, and it'll be coded as non-ag acreage or something like that. So you're going to have things like that that aren't going to be perfect, but by and large, it's a good number. That's how they're taxed. So most people don't want that to be wrong.
Right. That's your value, your property value, more or less. And across the United States, and this is a very important component, the majority, and I don't even think I'm going out on a limb by saying 95% of county assessors' databases are 3 years behind. And so even if you use the database that is there today, those maps have a probability of having some errors in it. So having all of you and others looking at it to update, that would be great. They just don't have the resources across the U.S. and all of the different counties for the data entry and to keep it moving forward. So just to make sure people understand if it's wrong, how could that be? That's usually the culprit.
It's usually an error in the other way, like something will be developed, but it hadn't caught up. You know, when you buy a house, it doesn't show up sometimes your sale in there for a while. You know, same thing with when things get built, it takes a while, you know.
Okay. And the other item I wanted to address was, even if the existing land use plan may be or may have some errors, everything that we are doing is not dependent on that plan. We're looking at the compliance of state statutes and the redundancies, the inconsistencies, and the narrative part, the policy side of the house on that front. And then when you get that completed, you'll have an opportunity possibly to move forward. So what have we completed to date? And public involvement is important. You heard a gentleman say that, you need to hear from us. And that's why we're here tonight. And I know the county has other opportunities in the future that they're going to reach out to everybody to get additional input at different phases of the plan. So you'll see here on the screens high-level tasks. This is what we call a ladder task that talks about what we did first, second, third, fourth. So you'll see that there's 4 different bars, ladder bars, that are assisting us, our team, in identifying all of the different issues that are involved or a part of the comprehensive plan. And those 4 areas that we're identifying in assisting us in identifying issues, and then we're going back and validating, is 1, we've had the opportunity to reach out and do interviews with the elected officials, with the commissioners, to talk to them about how they find or what's difficult in looking at the comp plan and evaluating if development applications are in compliance with the comp plan, looking at what some of their issues are with state compliance in regards to the comp plan. So we've had those interviews. We've had the interviews with numerous number of county staff, technical staff at the county, not just the planning department, but the environmental section, the public works, the engineers, the people behind the counters, the people helping all of you. And where they're having difficulties and the issues of trying to help define what the comp plan may mean in certain sections and trying to figure out, well, okay, yeah, you're right, it does say this here, and well, okay, what are we going to do? It says we need to do this here. And by the time you figure that all out and you figure out your site parcel development footprint, you may not have any land you could even develop on. That's another part of balancing property rights. So we're looking at all of those different areas and getting the input from elected officials, county staff. We're doing a very detailed, comprehensive review of all of the different documents and state statutes across the board, as I talked earlier. And then the third one, or the fourth one is getting all of your input through this week's set of public workshops. So you'll see that there's 3 that are highlighted in pink that has been completed, minus number 3, because after we get the input from all of you, we're going to go back and revisit what we reviewed, make sure that we didn't miss anything, items that you may bring up that we address and either add on or to what's existing, or there are new issues that we're going to be looking at. So when is the comprehensive plan going to be updated? If I was you, I would want to at least know, we're here tonight, when are we going to move forward and see possibly the final and the draft of the comprehensive plan? Ultimately, our end state for the final comprehensive plan is in August and September of this year. So with that, there's going to be a draft that will be submitted to the county, and at that point in time, the county will take the opportunity to review it from a county technical level and then open it up for input from all of you as well. And then it'll come back to us, and we will review those items and incorporate the revisions. Yes, sir.
Do you have a list of inconsistencies in the comp plan that you've identified so far?
We are working on that right now.
Is
So
it possible that the public can get a copy of that list of inconsistencies to see if maybe they can add to it?
yes, you will get a copy of that. That's going to be part of the draft. So when we give you the draft comp plan to review, it's not going to be the comprehensive plan, right? We're doing our very best. And this is the part where I'm saying it's a lot of work, putting a very detailed spreadsheet together so you'll see exactly what page, what paragraph, what it said before. We're doing strike through, so you'll know where we added language, where we took language out, why. Why are we doing that? And is it because it's not in compliance with the Florida statutes, and what part of the Florida statutes? And if it's regulatory in nature, we're pulling it out of the comp plan because the comp plan is a policy document, right? And by law, the land development code is to implement it, and that's the regulatory document. So we're putting those items, I'll ask you the question. I just want to finish this one statement because it's kind of important. So we're taking those regulatory components that we're finding, we're taking them out, we're putting in what's called the parking lot. So we're putting them over here, we're not losing them, it's in another beautiful long set of databases, right? And then when we finalize and the comprehensive plan, you guys buy in, it goes through the public hearing, it's adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, and when we move to phase 2, we will then take, as part of the whole thing, that would be one component, take that parking lot of all the regulatory items that we pulled out of the comp plan and incorporate where appropriate, incorporate where appropriate into the land development plan. Okay, I could breathe. And questions?
A lot of times, these things get presented to the public without the public having sufficient time to review them. We would like to make sure that there is plenty of time, not just a few days or a week, but several weeks or maybe even a month to review this information so that we can grasp it ourselves. You're going to spend all these months reviewing all this.
Right?
We're going to need some time ourselves to grasp it.
I support you. I truly do support you. And I know the county, we've been in discussions with the county that is as important. Kristen just said at a minimum 1 month, and where we can, we're going to push it to 2 months. And we agree. There's a lot. There's a lot. So yes, ma'am.
Along those same lines, I had written to Kristen earlier this week about getting that list of the 600 and so inconsistencies in the comp plan and the 282 in the land development code as a starting point to kind of wrap our minds around what you guys are looking at so we can prepare ourselves for that. Now, I know when I hear you're going to take all the regulatory items out of the comp plan and park them in the parking lot on the way to the land development code, you know, to me, there are red flags in that, for me.
Okay,
Because
share
I know-
with me so I can understand.
There are issues like the, some of the coastal dune lake protections that are in the comp plan that are, the comp plan is much harder to change, and the land development code is, that can happen in a couple meetings and boom, it's changed. It's having it in the comp plan, that's an extra layer of protection for those issues that we really hold dear
Yes.
in this area. So
Do you want to talk? We've talked about that, and we are well aware that not only the coastal dune lakes that are very, very important to all of you, there are. I think somebody else wants to talk. Sure.
Technical problem.
Oh, nobody can hear me?
Folks that are watching it live on the internet, if you'd like to make a comment,
Oh, you want me
come up
to?
to the microphone or either pass the microphone. That way, everybody can hear
Oh.
and get it
I'll pass.
completely
Good
recorded
help.
in the public record.
It really, we are supposed to save the public comment towards the end, just to help with that.
That's true.
Yes,
So we
please.
could, we can do that. So why don't we do that? But out of respect, you're in the middle of your question.
oh, no.
And-
What?
But we want to talk about what we discussed.
Just the coastal dune lake language has just been through the process, as you know, and it is consistent in the code and the comp plan right now. So that wouldn't be something that they would be looking at because it's already, we just adopted the code changes that made it consistent with the settlement agreement for the comp plan. So it's good. It's not going to be something that would be on the radar screen. But I kind of want to elaborate a little bit. I think that when Celeste says take regulatory stuff out of the comp plan, I'm going to give you a really good example. We have a 25-foot setback from wetlands buffer, a secondary buffer. It's in our comprehensive plan. It says you have to set back 25 feet. In practice, what has happened is very different from what was intended to happen with that. In practice, what has happened is it has encouraged the fill of wetlands because you may have
I don't think so.
I wish I could draw you a picture, but let me kind of paint it out for you. Let's say you have a swath of uplands that you could use for your driveway, and then you have an upland pad. Well, if you have to be set back 25 foot, you're 25 foot on either side of that upland driveway access occludes the driveway. So what do? You fill the wetlands instead of just using your upland driveway, which would be the intent. So we sometimes, because we have that stuff in there, we actually cause more harm than what was originally intended. But that doesn't mean that the comp plan won't say that it's important to Walton County to protect wetlands and that we'll have a buffer. It just may not say that 25 feet so that can be put into the code. And yes, a variance would be necessary in that situation to prevent the filling of the wetlands. And we have a lot of examples like that. And as we go through the process, I'd like to get down with you guys and go through it because it's easy to put something in there, and then when you actually have to implement it and you see that it's not working or it's not working as intended, there's some flexibility there. So I think if you just kind of keep it in that frame, like we want to protect wetlands. That's our policy. We're going to have measures to protect wetlands in the comp plan. It'll say generally a buffer, and then maybe in the code it'll say what that width is. And 25 foot is a good width. It's actually based on science. So we'll probably keep that, but we'll put it in the code so that we don't cause people to fill wetlands. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's an example, one example.
Okay, so we'll wait for the rest of public input until the end of the presentation. Moving on, so why is the county undertaking this effort? this slide basically repeats what I've already stated many, many times. You are, and I'm being very genuine and sincere. You guys are very lucky that they have taken this and identified it, especially the board of county commissioners stating that this is important and we need to fix it. So, and there are areas that are very redundant and inconsistent. So I think everybody will be very pleased at the end. So to get to maybe some of the curiosity or questions on all of the different items that we have found throughout our evaluation. There's a list here on the PowerPoint of some of the examples. I have to, there's so many. I talked about the first bullet, there's duplication of language, literally complete duplication of the exact same sentence or exact same meaning in a number of places that it's not even relevant. We have dates. So we've scrubbed the document where the comp plan states that it refers to plans that were amended or adopted in whatever that year is, and that year is wrong. That year is old, it's obsolete. So we're updating all of those references to dates on either the date of those plans or state statutes that were amended and such. Also, I've used some other examples here. The dates that have expired, so we're fixing all of that. Policies that state the county shall adopt a regulation when the regulation's already been adopted. So why even have that in there? So it's really what we call housekeeping. It's a technical cleanup, but it's really important because when somebody does go forward with a development application, it's just not clear. So, and then here's another list of some other items that are also examples of what we are finding in regards to some of the inconsistencies or redundancies within the plan or non-compliance. And just so everybody knows who's here tonight and who's watching all of us from their homes, that this PowerPoint will be put up on the project website for all of you to download, and you could review it at that point in time also. But give us some time. Give us some time to make sure that as we're going through and developing the list of all of the issues, let us go through some QA/QC processes too, because we don't want to make some, potential issues that have already been made. Give us the opportunity to vet and validate what we are finding as well.
Thanks. Celeste and Kristen have stolen a lot of my thunder tonight, but just out of a show of hands, how many of you have actually looked or opened up or read part of the comprehensive plan? Okay, so you're all familiar with the comprehensive plan. And how many of you have experienced some of the things that Celeste has mentioned in terms of those inconsistencies or, okay. So it's fairly common experience. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the comprehensive plan, what it is. It's a policy document, as everybody has talked about up to this point, but it's also the backbone for the regulations, and it's a state requirement in terms of adoption. So every jurisdiction in the state of Florida is required to have a comprehensive plan. And it kind of has that long-term vision. It typically has a 20-year planning horizon. And it's pretty much the foundation for planning within your jurisdiction. So I'm going to skip ahead because Celeste and Kristen have talked a little bit at length. In terms of consistency with the Florida statutes, that's a really critical thing. And there's a number of statutes that we're evaluating as part of this process, one of which is that you have to have a comprehensive plan, and your land development regulations, your land development code has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. So you aren't supposed to change your land development code unless it is consistent with whatever is already in your comprehensive plan. And there have been some changes in the state law since 2011 in terms of what is a requirement for a comprehensive plan. So every 7 years, at a minimum, Walton County must notify the state of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity whether they are going to modify a comprehensive plan or not. So it's not a requirement that they modify the comprehensive plan. They just need to notify the state that they intend to do so, and they have a period of 1 year to modify a comprehensive plan. There have been some other changes in terms of the statutes. Most recently, I'm going to step back here. Most recently, a set of requirements relative to flooding. So there are statutes that say you shouldn't have large expenses of public dollars funding infrastructure in areas that are prone to flooding. So that perils and flooding section is also something that we're evaluating in terms of consistency with the Florida statutes. So in terms of the statutory requirements for the comprehensive plans, the statutes say you have to include mandatory and optional elements because the comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies are organized into a set of elements. There has to be consistency between those elements. So you can't have one area that says, we're going to balance development and protect conservation areas, and then have another section that says, we're not really going to do that, or, so there has to be that consistency between them. Compatibility with adjacent land uses, there's a whole list up here. One of them is balancing uses that foster vibrant communities, quality of life, while protecting and balancing natural and historic resources. So there's a number of things that we are looking at as part of this process to comply with the statutory requirements. Walton County has 8 mandatory elements in their comprehensive plan, which is good because there are 8 required by the state, and there's 2 additional ones that the county also has, which is economic development and a public schools element. So we're evaluating all of that in terms of our process. As Kristen said, the last comprehensive plan update was done in 2006. It took until 2011 to get the evaluation appraisal report and all of the subsequent amendments associated with that update to complete. And so what's happened is since 2011, there have been a number of ordinances that have been adopted, and those ordinances can be, piecemeal. They may modify a parcel on the future land use map. And so we're also looking at all of those ordinances and the impact to make sure that everything has been included and updated based on all of the actions that the Board of County Commissioners has taken as well. So it's a very comprehensive process that we are going through. This diagram up here kind of shows the relationship of how you get from a vision to something physical on the ground. And it starts with a comprehensive plan, that's that bottom step there, along with the supporting documentation. And in the case of Walton County, it also includes neighborhood planning areas, which are also part of the comprehensive plan. The second level is your land development code. So everything above the bottom, as you move up that pyramid, needs to be consistent with everything below it. And so your land development code includes your regulations, your development regulations, your land use districts, but it also includes the regulatory component of those neighborhood planning areas that are in the comprehensive plan too. So there's a relationship there, if you will, between your comprehensive plan and your goals, policies, and objectives, and your regulatory framework that's in your land development code. And then once you get above that, you have your site planning, your building plans, and then finally your certificate of occupancy. So there is a planning hierarchy in terms of the tools within the county. So one of the other things that Celeste and Kristen have mentioned, because it's also part of our scope, is to look at the 1994 South Walton Conservation and Development Trust Plan. Just a little bit of history. It was mandated by the state of Florida because of an acquisition of a large number of acreage in South Walton County. And so there's a bunch of requirements that were included in that 1994 trust plan. And they had to do with things like, environmental preservation, protecting endangered species, creating a network of greenways like Kristen had talked about, making sure development was energy efficient, that it was cost effective, that it wasn't a undue burden on the county. And so what you ended up with was a set of, we'll call them character areas. There were 9 geographic planning areas. And the plan was really based on 3 sets of visions. One was economic, one was ecological, and one was community-based. And so from a physical development perspective, the 1994 Trust Plan really was about a marriage of ecology and the built environment. And there was a set of strategies, goals and strategies that were part of that trust plan that made its way into the 1996 comp plan and made its way through the current comp plan that you have today. But as those piecemeal changes happen, sometimes things get lost, sometimes things get lost in translation, sometimes things get overwritten. And so what we're looking at is, how effectively does the current comprehensive plan capture that original vision from the 1994 trust plan? And are there any opportunities to enhance that, that vision, even in terms of greenway connections, the placemaking opportunities that were mentioned. And in terms of placemaking, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, as I said, everybody stole my thunder, but that's okay. So that's kind of, in a broad brush, what we're looking at in terms of consistency with the Florida statutes, consistency with the 1994 South Walton Conservation and Development Trust Plan, and part and parcel of the process that we're going through moving forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Celeste. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And now we're officially going to open up the opportunity for all of you to provide input, to share with us what areas, when you have read through or had to use the comp plan or the land development code, where you've had problems and or difficulties in interpreting. So how many times have we heard there's 20 plus different interpretations for the same item or paragraph within a comp plan or a land development code? So those are the things we want to address. With that, I'm going to just highlight a couple rules of engagement. The first one is respect. We all are here because we love this. You love this area. And we definitely need to respect all of our neighbors and we're going to do our best, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that happens, and I'm sure we're not going to have an issue, but I always like to start off with that because that's important. The second thing is, in the interest of time, we want to make sure if everybody does want to talk, that they do have an opportunity to speak. And with that, so we're going to hold everybody to 3 minutes and to speak and provide your input. And there is no what was that? Oh yeah, there is no. I hate to say this, but dumb question. Please don't even think that. So don't hesitate if you are concerned about that. And just out of respect, if you've heard the same comment several times, one thing that we guarantee is we're listening. We're not just hearing you, we're listening. We're documenting all of the comments that we receive. We're going to scan and we'll share those with you as well. So, just be fair to the time. And if you're speaking, if you have a written item, hand that to us, please. We welcome all of that information. So and the last item is that we would ask you to please come up to the mic, or I could bring the mic to you, and you could state your question, and we could, for all of the people who are at home listening in this evening as well, they can actually hear what you guys are saying. So we're going to ask for comment cards. I'm going to call people up by their names. We've already collected those comment cards. So if you need a comment card and or a pen, we have people here who will be willing to collect and or provide those cards out to all of you. Okay, so while they're doing some of the administrative legwork of getting the additional comment cards out, I want to talk about the overall public involvement. So you heard us say that tonight's not the last time you have as an opportunity to provide input. In fact, you don't even have to wait until the next set of public workshops, because on the project website, which is waltoncountyplanupdate.com, there are 2 tabs, a red tab and a green tab. Many people have already found it, which is great. So I think it's the green one that says you could, I can't read it. What does it say? Anybody? Is that the one that says?
I think that's the
comment one? And then there's the red tab that says sign up for the email list. So you'll be informed when there is another set of public workshops, or when stuff is being submitted to and uploaded to the project website, so you can go see what's been happening, i.e. like the PowerPoint presentation, that e-blast. You'll get an email informing you that everything's been uploaded, from photographs from the meetings to the PowerPoint and from comments. So it'd be great if you can do that. So anytime, the only thing I'm going to tell you is the comment tab is limited by the number of characters. So if all of a sudden you're in the middle of a thought and it stops, don't get frustrated. It's not us, it's just part of the programming that we have no control over. Just end that thought a little earlier, pick it up, and hit comment again, the tab again, and you could continue. And you could even say this is a continuation, and it'll fall in order. The other great thing about the project website is when you're submitting your email sign-ups for the e-blast as well as comments, we Matrix are not the only people who are receiving that information. So there are a number of county technical staff who are also receiving that. So they're constantly going through, making sure that they are responding to any questions that you may have and addressing any items that need to be addressed through the project website. So hopefully that is clarified there. I think that's it. I talked a little bit earlier about there is a tab that is kind of like an online library for resources. So if you want to go and pull down a copy of the 1994 trust plan, or have links to the current comprehensive plan today, or the land development code, they're on there as well. as an additional supporting documents that is mandated by the state are all of these maps here. Look at them, let us know if you have comments, and if it's something that is difficult to explain over the website, if you want to submit or sit down with Kristen with a map and identify those possible error areas, I am positive she would be open to that, yes. We definitely want to make sure we address all that. So I have a few comment cards in my hand. I'm going to go with the first one. It's Charles Foreman. Would you like to step on? You want to step to the? You can either step up to the podium or would you like me to bring this to you, sir?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Obviously, you can't do a great deal in 3 minutes, but I'm one of the 2 trustees for my family, and we've owned a good deal of property in the county for 80 years, and quite a bit of it south of the bay. And we're now this kind of a catch-up ear type reworking. I think you have to keep in context the fact that none of us were allowed to give any input, and I was not involved, although I knew the lawyers, some were friends of mine, who did the deal with St. Joe paper, and that took a lot of things out of play. A lot of things were supposed to happen that, frankly haven't. And today we were talking about, and I think the planner mentioned 8 to 9% of property available for planning. When you get into pristine wetlands and other things, that eliminates an enormous amount of what's left of that. Like, we own quite a bit of property out on Live Oak Point where it goes into Hogtown Bayou. And one of the commissioners asked me about possibly doing a seagrass project. Other than that, there's never going to be a condominium or a house or anything out there. I would be very surprised if there's as much as 3 or 4%, the way this plan's currently written, of undeveloped land that south of the bay that can be developed, other than what St. Joe paper owns, and that's all vested, so there's really nothing you can deal with it. For the rest of us, I would just say I'm pleased to hear that you're looking at not just a technical inconsistency, but inconsistencies that come up from a practical application of the code and how it works. Because there are many of those, and I hope as you go through, as you said, that made all the sense in the world to me, that this evaluation is done with an eye to fairness, and also to trying to get back, I think, where you can redevelop some of what we call forest to a real forest. My principal home's in Ocala. Been on the Planning Zoning Commission there for a number of years and involved in a lot of this stuff. Ocala, you have the Ocala National Forest, for any of you that have ever driven over there. That is a real forest, okay? Our property down south of the bay, along with St. Joe's, along with the state's property and how they're managing it, that today is GM modified it's planted stuff, and with some reasonable redevelopment of these percentages of property that are left, what can happen and what should happen is that we should address the drainage, take care of that, eliminate some of the discharge that's such a problem, and get back to what was indigenous to the area and make some of it better. Because the state, I don't see the state doing it anytime soon, and Walton County doesn't have the money to do it as well. So I appreciate very much your being here. I looked up, I was not familiar with the company, but I've done tremendous things, and you've worked in the area with Eglin, which was, I think, a big concern if they've done anything in this area, and you have. So good luck on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Next, Ellen Osborne. Is he? Okay, just hold while we try to figure out our technical difficulties right now. Wow. I am so sorry for all of you and everybody else out there. Okay, so the one thing I did fail to do is to give you the 30-second warning of 3 minutes. So you did very well, and I thank you very much staying within your 3-minute timeline. So I will go up and just kindly just look at you and just say 30 seconds. And believe me, I have lots of boys, so I could be loud if I need to be, and I don't want to be. Those days are hopefully over. So next, we have Barbara. More. Thank you. I don't have my reading glasses on, so thanks.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity. But one issue you brought up, or overriding statement, I'd like to repeat from your slide. It's preserving, protecting, and enhancing neighborhood and place level quality and character. I really hope you can take that statement and put it in front of you with everything that you do with this comp plan. Walton County is a unique county. In the comprehensive plan, the village mixed use wording, I believe you would need to take a look at that. Kristen, you mentioned the scale and uses at the edge shall be compatible with abutting neighborhood uses. To my mind, I think that's extremely clear. That's preserving, protecting, and enhancing. However, that doesn't happen all the time. So I'm asking this team, I'm asking our county to look at village mixed use. And now my question is that something that you would be looking at, which is a big part in your comp plan?
So I would say yes. What did you say? Yeah. Oh, you did? Okay.
Okay.
Did I say something wrong? Yes. So
All right.
we're going to be doing our best to clarify and define areas.
Okay.
So
All right, thank you, because that's
we
very,
have
very
have
important.
People documenting, and we'll
I appreciate
definitely
that. Thank you.
address that. Thank you. Any other cards that need to be collected? Yes. Okay. Jackie Markell?
Markell.
Thank you.
Definitions, definitely. Clarity in those definitions. I think that's a huge problem. In my emails earlier this week about making this easy and accessible for the public, you know, the people that are sitting in this room today are people that are really interested in it, and the average person, you know, husband and wife who are raising a family, you know, of kids, and they're going to this, that, and the other. They're not as familiar with the comp plan and the land development code, but their lives are affected by what happens there. So to present it to the public, you know, when I heard that this is a listening, really a listening meeting, that's great, but unless you're really versed in the plan, like a few people are in this room, who have something that they know is a problem, to me, this is way too early to ask for public input, because the average person sitting there at home barely knows what the land development code and comp plan are, and they don't know how to digest what you're going to do. And that was my thought in asking for the areas of conflict, and that one slide did explain it in a good way. But I think it's got to be digestible for the public. It's a huge document, it's very complex, and somehow it's got to be simplified if you really want public input into it. That's going to be meaningful. The other thing I just wanted to say, for years, as long as I've been here, I've been hearing commissioners mention, oh, that comp plan, that 1994 trust plan was shoved down our throat. And that always bothered me. I read it, and it sounded like, man, it sounded like a paradise if we could actually implement all that. I'm glad to hear that you're going back to that to look to see if the spirit was captured, because a lot of things have changed in the interim. Am I at 30 minutes? Okay. So I'm really encouraged to see that we're doing that, and I hope that that sentiment of that darn trust plan that got shoved down our throat isn't really the feeling, although I've heard it really recently from a commissioner. It won't work against what we're actually trying to do here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you said some very, very powerful and true words. When Pat asked how many of you have read either or the comp plan and the land development code, and the majority of almost every one of your hands went up, that's a first for us. And you are correct, it is very difficult. We spend, in many cities, we spend a lot of time educating them what the comp plan is, why it's important to them. We bring it down to levels of questions that when we ask them questions, that helps us define policies when they give us their answers. Because they don't understand it. Even people have a difficulty getting their arms around what is a policy, what's an objective, what's a goal, what's an objective, what's a policy, what do each one of those mean? So it's well stated, and we're gonna do our best on that front. Any other comment cards for tonight's session? And the other item I want to just say, early for public involvement. For this group specifically, and hopefully others that we reach out to during this week, and comments that we get, people, all of you who've had the opportunity to work with the comp plan and the land development code, share with us what your difficulties have been, where it was difficult to interpret, or where you couldn't understand where it said this in one area and something else in another area. That's why it was important for us to talk to all the planners and engineers who were behind the counter and doing the same thing, or writing up the staff report for the county commissioners, and for the county commissioners trying to figure it out. Where do they have problems? So we do welcome it, and then we do welcome the public involvement when we get to that point, when we get to share it as well. So comment cards. If I could have a comment card, is this a logistic question, sir?
No, it's like, I would give you a card. I just thought of a question.
Come on up. Please come up to the podium. That would be great. Oh, you did?
Yes.
I just thought of a question. I'll happily put my name on it.
Thank you.
So, my name is Mark Schnell. I am, we'll write that down for you. But my question is this. Well, first, to explain, I design communities for a living, so I'm biased in everything I'm about to ask. Are you going to be including public realm in what you're doing? In other words, it's awfully tough to create the kind of community that we all want to create if all you do is focus on the private land, because the public realm of parks and streets and beaches and you name it plays a big role. Just as an example, I feel like many codes get into a mess when they only look at, say, parking from the perspective of what goes on the lot itself, when there are other options for parking that are broader, whether it's on-street parking or public parking or shared parking or other means. So my question is, will you be able to mix in to really intertwine the public with the private and make one as good as the other.
Esther, do you want to take that one? I mean, what you stated is very important.
Well, do people call you Shell? 'Cause my last name's Shell, and I get called Schnell all the time, so I was wondering if you get called Shell.
I do get that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's what that greenways concept in the trust plan is. I mean, I think that's part of that. Parking is an issue we wrestle with, and I can't really opine on it right now. You know, there's people that think we need lots more parking, and there's people that think parking is the ruination of a unique place. You know, so somewhere we've got to get a happy medium, I suppose, there. So, you know, I think it would be important for us in our dialogue to look at issues like that at all angles.
Mhm.
You know, if you increase this parking requirement, what do you ultimately end up with? Or if you do alternative things, what do you ultimately end up with? And that's exactly what you're talking about, if I'm hearing you right. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have to, I think we'll get, when we get into that land development code and we start comparing it to what the comp plan says, I mean, that's kind of where the rubber hits the road. And I want to sit down and have small level workshops and focus group meetings with you guys. You're going to get sick of me. You're going to go away. Hopefully we can get to consensus and really understand issues before we get to a big public hearing process and everybody's mad, and you know, we don't want to do that. I think we can work it out.
Very quick follow-up. I mean, another example, the county's moving forward with a redesign of the 38-395 intersection, and they're putting in highway-sized lanes. They're putting in 11-foot lanes. And so in a place where the trust plan and the comprehensive plan has always talked about walkable and safe for bikes, safe for pedestrians, I'm not sure why we're building streets that encourage people to go that fast. So again, we need to combine the public sector, the public realm with the private realm in order to create the kind of places that we want. So if you can do that, hallelujah, I'll be there with you trying to help. Thanks.
And if I could speak to that, or at least the first part of that, yes, parking is at the top of the list of our issues to work together with our community, the designers in our community that do this stuff a lot in other places and help make this place better. It's absolutely going to have to include the public realm. That's one of the components of success, figuring out how to park those people that still have to have cars.
So, oh, sorry, thank you. Now that it's almost over, but I appreciate it. So, and also to continue on the parking and the roadway. So what we're doing on a couple comprehensive plans where we're doing full-blown updates, right, in other communities, we're addressing the overall mobility across the board. And I know you that's important to you as well in regards to the pedestrian walkable communities, but we are looking at all of the autonomous car issues. How are they going to be integrated with the privately owned vehicles today? How are they going to evolve and ultimately be more of the majority of our vehicular transportation? What are their needs? Their needs are much less as far as the width of corridors. Are those opportunities for the large corridors? Can we utilize those corridors in the future for multimodal type of additional greenway connectivity, or just connections between all the different character areas or neighborhood areas? So we're looking at that. We are doing a lot of research. We have a complete transportation section that is kind of focusing in on researching the autonomous car, working with some of the developers on it. What are there's actually true developers back east today building condominium apartments that house only autonomous cars. And how are they incorporating that car actually going and kind of sleeping in its room within the condo area or floor area that it's associated with, and how that the lanes with the average daily traffic counts, the ADTs, they're much quicker, and you lose or you gain much more space. You can move more of the vehicles because they only need a very small space between them as they move through the process. So it is evolving. We don't have the answers right now, but we're getting them real time, at least what they're identifying to date today. But just imagine, really a comprehensive plan is for all of us, when you're doing a full-blown update, step back, what will this place look like at build-out? 2080, 2090 plus, right? Many of us may not even still be here. But what will that be like? Just imagine that, as I grow older and I become a senior citizen and elder, that I am unable to drive, but I still need to get to the doctor's office and go to different appointments, but my children have jobs and I don't want to be a burden to them. To have an autonomous car that can actually roll up to my front porch, pick me up, I'm taking the risk of driving and being a risk to other drivers, right? But yet I still have mobility at a very much older age, right, than I would have if I was dependent on other people to get me around. So those are the type of seminars that we're going through. We're listening. We're trying to understand how that movement would happen within a community, first in a neighborhood, then in a larger community and a region, how it's going to connect the entire mobility of the network. So those are some of the items that we wanted to share with you. And another item that we're looking at is delivery packages. People don't go to the stores as much as they used to. They're purchasing online, especially with Amazon and all the other websites available for that. So what that is doing, it's putting more traffic, more truck traffic into our neighborhoods, on our roads, putting more maintenance issues on the pavement loads within our community's roadway network. But so what many people don't know is companies like FedEx and across the U.S., they're actually going through a lot of research and development and the R&D component of it to try to figure out how they can deliver these packages. I know this sounds really weird because I first heard it. And delivering that package to those individual locations, homes, businesses, and whatnot, within a secured vault that is like a mailbox to us today, but would be a mailbox to these drones as they drop the packages within these safe vault, mailbox, transit package type of items that are connected to your home. And it's secure. You don't have to worry about people stealing them. So that is another component. So these are items that we're going to be facing sooner rather than later. And all of this is happening behind the scenes, and we're trying to get as much information as possible as we move forward and we assist other communities when they do a complete overhaul for their comp plan. But that's something I wanted to share with all of you, and to think about, what would Walton County look like in the future? And if you have a question, I would please welcome you up to the podium and fill out a card, and we'll be happy to.
Great. Good evening. My name is Bob Irwin. I'm at the Seaside Institute. My question is, we have here in Walton County a group of national and international experts on autonomous vehicles and self-driving cars. And we're part of a team that's been chartered by the county to do a feasibility study on autonomous vehicles and self-driving cars. So my question is simple. How do we engage with you on the work that you're doing in this area so that we can have one effort for Walton County?
Oh my God, that would be outstanding. We would work, I would say work through Kristen, we can coordinate, and we'll be happy to work with you and share
Get out there and see you guys and
any information we'll be happy to.
Okay, and Kristen, you don't have to come out and see us, we'll come see you.
So, and that's not.
We'll get in our self-driving car and come see you.
You can come see us.
Yeah, absolutely, the 38 mobility project is going to be integrated into this effort, as is the two of the transit programs that we've got, that are going to be assist with the 38 mobility.
I believe you, Mac.
We want to
And
bring all this stuff together.
I 100% believe you that you do, and I just want to say we'll do whatever we need to do to engage with you.
And you guys are so lucky to have them here, because in doing this type of a study, there's not many communities across it. It's very foreign to a lot of communities. As we move forward, I'm sure you are exposed to the same.
Walton County is taking the lead in autonomous vehicles and self-driving cars, not only just in the state of Florida, but also in the whole United States. So we want to be part of that, but we want to integrate with you and make sure that we're doing all we can to support you in that.
That'd be great. Thank you. I know, you were cool.
Okay, great.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Okay, you're going to write that. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I know I kind of tangented. I'm so sorry, but it's kind of exciting and fun stuff as well. So on behalf of the county, Walton County, on behalf of all of the county commissioners and Matrix Design Group and our team, we want to thank you very much for taking the time out, giving us your input, and we look forward to your continued efforts as we move forward. Thank you.